Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you all the City Das Real Tournament. This is the quarterfinal broadcast. The 8 players, this will just be the quarterfinal broadcast, so we'll just have 4 matches for today. Let's get this show on the road. So, looking at the bracket, we have 8 players. They have survived 3 rounds. This was a 64-player bracket. All 8 of these players are arguably one of the best DAS players in the world. So, I think it's fair to say that this is possibly the most stacked DAS tournament ever. For match number 1, we have Tugi versus NGC. Just for a little context, NGC won the test tournament, which was held in January. So he is technically defending champion for this tournament. And the stakes are technically higher. So there is that to show. Tugi will be trying to put a stop to that. And NGC and Tugi was both warming up, but it looks like they are both ready, so we can immediately get on with game number 1. Where's my admin screen? There we go. Best of 5, level 18 starts mandatory. I wish you, NGC and Tugi, the best of luck. Let's count it down. And unfortunately, we have to count down from 10, so it's a really long countdown. But in 3, 2, 1, Tetris. Now, for those of you who may be interested, you'll be noticing these lines in the middle of the screen. The red line, the yellow line, the green line, and the blue line. They actually indicate DAS limits. So for the blue line and the green line, they represent level 18 DAS limits. So the blue line at the top, that's for the right-hand side. A long bar can go 12 high on the right hand side, whilst meanwhile on the green end, that's 10 high on the left hand side. They'll be at those limits, and as a reminder of the rules, the playstyle, your main playstyle, must be DAS only, and only in cases where you have lost DAS you are allowed to tap. However, you can only tap within the constraints of full DAS. Rolling is strictly forbidden no matter what. Let's do a bit of score check for both players, and it looks like that Tugi is having a reasonable start with a few Tetris on the board, passing 100,000 points. NGC in the meantime, with actually a bit of a suffer start. With a long bar drought, finally gets the long bar, puts it in the left hand side. And he's immediately 75, now 100,000 points behind. Suffer start for him. Tugi will be very happy with that. So already a bit of pressure for NGC. But he's a very competent player. 75,000 point lead is practically nothing in DAS terms, because that lead can just disappear in a moment should one player ever early top out. Bit of a drought for Tugi, waiting on the long bar, gets a Tetris. 167. NGC looking to go row 2. Hits the S-spin, hits the Tetris, and let's see if NGC will burn that down to row number 1. Will do so. In the meantime, another Tetris. Another Tetris for Tugi. Lead still at about 100,000 points, reduced now to 80,000 points, with line differences being, about equal for both players. And now finally NGC is on the road, slamming down Tetrises.
It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job.
To give you a bit of a iffy stack, but gets perfect RNG, I must say. The OP's to the left hand side and the J dependency. Another Tetris for Tugi. 288 at the halfway mark to transition. It's very respectable. most definitely get at least a 550k transition, carries on like this. NGC on the other hand, 210 halfway mark. Will most certainly be wanting more than that, but a 500k transition from NGC would most certainly be respectable for him. Tugi now completely O dependent and does get the O piece, so fortunate RNG in this part. Heals in the long bar dependency. DAS players does get bailed eventually, not eventually, sometimes. Eventually, what am I talking about? DAS players more often than not never gets bailed out. Tetris for NGC. Waiting on the JPs for a long bar. Long bar, that will work too. Lead has been reduced slightly. Although Tugi with 2 Tetris in a row does extend the lead a little bit. 60,000 points ahead for Tugi at the moment. This could come down to close transition. And if it does, NGC will have to show us what we can do to try and catch up. No early top outs yet. That I would say is I can't find the right word for it. Fortunate? I can't really think of the correct word for it. The only word I can think of is fortunate, but there's a better word for it, that's for sure. 100 lines in for both players, 436 for Tugi, 379 for NGC. Just catching up inch by inch. Tetris Tugi with a nice TRT rate, 69%, very nice indeed. Does a series of nice tucks, gets a Tetris, now waiting for a piece to spin, fails the L spin, the easiest spin possible, relatively. I speak in terms of relative terms. But Tugi does miss the L spin, which is unfortunate. Both players now very close to the 19 transition, and that is where we will decrease the DAS limits, and that's where you see the yellow line and the red line. The red line being 6 high on the left hand side and the yellow line being 9 high on the right hand side. As for quick tap limits for both 18 and 19, it is extended by 2 blocks. It is not represented in this graph. The color key. Tugi transition score of 519 and his stack is pretty damn bad. He has to quick tap, does successfully quick tap the T piece to the left hand side. That was 7 high. Now needs a series of O pieces, fails a 8 high quick tap with the S piece, and Tugi's in serious trouble. And I'm not sure there's much he can do about it, and no, early post transition fails him in the end with a score of 525,540 points. It's up for NGC to catch us up, and he can line us out. This is most certainly line outable. And that's in a nutshell. If you do one mistake post transition, it can be instant death. Nothing else much more to say. Just simple line out strats. The alternative is 2 Tetrises. That will also take the game. But NGC wants to take back-to-back champions. Imagine winning both the real and the test tournament. Ooh, that would be one hell of an achievement. 30,000 points away. Getting close to just 1 Tetris away, but I don't think he'll be interested in doing that. I think at this rate, if I had to guess, he'll win at around about level 25 or 26 if he just purely lines out. But he's actually lining out pretty well. Lining out can sometimes be a trap strategy, because if you don't stack very well lining out, it can bite you in the back. So you still have to be a little bit careful. I mean, the margin of error is increased, that's for sure, but it's not as big as you imagine. A triple will take at this point. And just one more single. And that will take it. NGC, who have won the first game. It is now 1-0. GG's. Alright, we're waiting for readiness from both players, and both players are indeed ready. So let's get on with game number 2. Let's count them both down. In 4, 3, 2, 1, Tetris. GG's to both players. Just an unfortunate early post-transition top out from Tugi, and NGC was able to capitalise on it and eventually line up quick to victory. Okay, sorry about that. I wasn't able to read chat for the first game, so I had it closed, but I finally managed to open, so I can finally see chat and answer some questions. I see the first question. Are there any other online death tournaments happening soon? There is the LATAM death tournament that I'm pretty sure is happening right now. I'm not sure much else of what is happening there, but what I do know is that it is actually happening. Quick score checks by both players. NGC this time is now having a very solid start, in contrast to Tugi. 2 Tetris lead for NGC to start off the early game. But as for my end, do not expect, wow, that's a series of very impressive touch by NGC. I just have to comment on that. That's very impressive. Excellent dash control. Surviving the drought and getting the long bar. From my end, don't expect any more official, like big dash tournaments this year. I might do another one next year. But for side events, the dash side events hosted by me, that is something that I might be interested in doing. Just small events. I have a few ideas in my mind, but they won't be conventional 1v1s. I won't say when I'll do it. It'll be sometime, maybe this year. Actually, I'll want to do it this year, but not in the immediate future. Back to the game. The lead has been reduced slightly to just 1 Tetris for NGC. Both players stacking very well, and Tugi managed to recover from a shaky early game. Tetris for Tugi, 219, 262 for NGC. Tetris for NGC. He's actually on pace for this 600k transition, nearly at the halfway mark. Another Tetris would pass the 300,000k at the halfway mark. Just waiting on the long bar. If it comes, has to take a single skim. So at the halfway mark of 280 for NGC, can maybe think about a 550k transition at least. Tugi, also at the same score, at the halfway mark, can also think about getting a 550k transition. Ooh, Tugi decided to take a triple instead. I think that was a safety move. Decided to bail out in it. Smart move, but not necessarily very efficient. Ensures survivability, however. With both players on even ground, both players having forced to do using the dash technique, mistakes can add up, with margin of error so tiny. If you misdrop at level 19, that's immediately like a 50-50 chance of instantly topping out, which your opponent can then capitalise on and just line out to victory, as NGC has done in the first game. Lead now has grown, 74,000 points. That's about 3.5 Tetrises, 3.5, 4 Tetrises. However, is a Tetris ahead, so it's more likely to say that NGC is 2 Tetrises ahead in terms of pace. Series of nice stacking by players, as you would expect. They are both elite Tetris players. One of the best in the world. Tetris for Tugi, 467, 478 for NGC, having a very good game. 75% Tetris rate, very respectable. I like Tetris, and I like to watch Tetris. Can't say. Same here. Same here. That's why we're all here, right? It is a satisfying game to play and a satisfying game to watch. NGC is a little bit dangerous. Oh, had a power step for a moment there. Does eventually get bailed out of the long bar, but that was quite dicey. Both players are very close to transition. 2 Tetris remaining. NGC game 1. You can get one more Tetris, takes a single skim, now waiting on the long bar. Both players just 1 line remaining. Tugi getting a long bar for a Tetris, so just NGC. And both players transition with quite a similar score, with NGC being in the lead by half a Tetris. This will be down to who plays post-transition better and who makes the least mistakes. Here we go. Okay, Tugi with a tuck setup, gets a J-piece, nice tuck, gets a long bar, gets a Tetris. NGC, Tetris ready, waiting on long bar, both players at level 20, gets a long bar, gets a Tetris. Tugi, also Tetris ready, at level 20, gets a long bar, gets a Tetris. Both players now at level 21, and they are now neck and neck with each other. This is a very close game indeed. Nice single skim for Tugi. NGC playing aggressive with that long bar, and column number 9 may win the misdrop. He's completely long bar dependent, whereas long bar does not get the long bar, and unfortunately that mistake has costed him the game. That is what happens when you're a DAS player. 1 mistake and you are done. Tugi takes game number 2, and what has become what was a best of 5 is now a best of 3. Let's count them down. Both players are 2 games away from moving on to the semi-finals. In 3, 2, 1. So apparently what chat said is that NGC lost DAS on the 4 high right and failed to tap the long bar to the right hand side. I would do that too. And that's what happens when you lose DAS. You die. The end. You lose. Reset the game, kid, as David Vulich would say in his Tetris song. Great song, by the way. Both players off to a solid start. Taking skims, taking Tetrises. Tugi waiting on the J piece to tuck that piece in. Ooh, puts J piece on the left hand side instead of bailing out, but does get an O piece followed by an S piece to spin with. And after a series of a delayed burn, gets a Tetris. Tugi with an alternating LJ dependency, now a double L dependency. Puts the long bar on one of them, turning back into an alternating dependency. Gets a J for the J dependency. That Z piece came at the worst time possible, and Tugi's stack is running a bit problematic. L piece came, but managed to deal with that quite nicely. Now needs an L piece once again, gets it. Puts the long bar in the Z dependency, creating a J dependency, gets J piece. Now needs a long bar or a J piece. Puts the long bar in there. Now needs an L piece. Gets the L piece. Puts the long bar in the L dependency. Creates a J dependency. Gets J piece immediately. And Tugi is now safe once again. But now has a double Z dependency. ZT dependency. But with a series of nice pieces, nice burns, Tugi's now perfectly clean once again. However, in terms of pace, he is now 100,000 points behind. NGC taking the advantage on the game number 3. Tetris for Tugi, Tetris for NGC, maintaining the 100,000 point lead. Safety double, Tetris for NGC. Das is dead. Best Tetris match ever. I mean, for the skeptics, it would be fair to say that this tournament is just one massive, how do I put this? Copium fest, I think, is the best way to describe this. It's just one massive copium fest. But I just really like the playstyle of Das. I just think it's so elegant, and I just decided, you know what, I'm going to host a Das tournament with a prize pool, because nobody else has done that. Since 2018 at least, because 2018 was when Das was the dominant playstyle. NGC with a L dependency does get the L piece. Left hand side, okay, gets a series of nice pieces. Tetris maintaining the 100,000 point lead from the early game. So it'll be up to Tugi to see what he can do in post-transition to try and catch up. Series of a double. Takes a single skim. Nice Z piece. Doesn't take the triple the L piece, but it's fine. Both players are at the drought currently. 20 piece each currently. A double and a triple for a Tugi. NGC escapes out of the drought. 30 piece drought now for Tugi. He's forced to take burns, and finally, after 38 pieces, gets a back-to-back Tetris. But unfortunately, with that kind of RNG, the lead has now extended to a 150,000 point lead. NGC in terms of pace. In terms of raw score, well, you can see at the top, there's no need for me to say. In terms of pace, yeah, as you can see, it's 150. It is a bit of a soft game. Another drought for Tugi into the 30s. 29 pieces. But with both players being on equal grounds, no game is ever over if your opponent tops out and can't score any more points. Both players transition, 561 for NGC, very respectable. Not quite a 400,000 for Tugi. He might start thinking about playing aggressive, but we will see. There are two ways to play this. Either hope that your opponent tops out, or you play very aggressive yourself. Personally, I would play very aggressive. I would go for the win, but that's just me. Some players would most certainly play as if nothing happened and just hope that their opponent tops out. And that's also valid, because it does happen. NGC is 10 lines behind and is still 100,000 points ahead. Tugi going for a column number 4. Gets a Tetris, but stack is now completely shot. Not deadly shot, but pace is just no opportunity to score any more Tetrises for a little while for Tugi until this is cleaned out. Tugi trying to avoid putting more, I forgot the word, putting more pieces on the hole. But does get a series of nice pieces. Gets an L piece, gets a long bar, now needs to wait another long bar, or an L piece does so, gets a long bar, gets a Tetris, but the lead is still at 100,000 points for NGC. Tugi is now double L dependent, gets one of them. bails out on the other one. An SP's would be very nice for Tugi, but doesn't get it. Does get a Tetris, but stack once again is a bit short. NGC stack, beautiful, takes a nice double followed by Tetris. Tugi is now playing at row number 3, gets a Tetris at level 25. Might be do or die for Tugi almost at this point, unless NGC tops out quite soon. At level 26, the amount of points that he can get is around about 250,000 in best case scenario. So just a few more Tetrises. NGC, if he can score about 150,000 more points, that's it. That will seal the game, guaranteed. Both players with a drought, 30 piece. NGC manages to survive it. Ooh, Tugi's in deep trouble. Needs an L or J piece. Now needs a long bar, gets it. Quick taps the long bar to the left hand side instead. Takes a triple. Tugi now needs to go for Tetrises only. Has no burns, and unfortunately, with that burn, has to pretty much go for a center well. Tugi reaches the kill screen, and unfortunately, there's nothing else he can do. Ends the game, still 20,000 points behind. Good effort, but unfortunately, not enough. And NGC, you have won game number 3, which is now 2-1. Both players are ready. NGC at match point. Count them both down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's start with Tugi. 100% Tetris rate at 1.5 million pace. Tetris NGC also at 1.5 million pace. Number 2 for NGC. And Tugi has to bail out of the perfection. He no longer has perfect pace. GG, you lose. That's not how it works here. What is the equivalent of Texas in the UK? Wales? Wales doesn't work as well though. There probably is one, but it's probably really rude, and so I won't say it. Flushed. NGC with a very good start, 90% Tetris rate. For a 90% Tetris rate, you have to score 2 Tetrises for every single. That is 700k transition pace. But unfortunately, a series of unfortunate pieces, that will not happen this game. Such. Scotland, yeah. But that was my first one, actually, Scotland. It makes more sense for it to be Scotland. Alright, both players with a pretty good start. Tugi at 200,000 points past line 40. That's usually a benchmark of a pretty good game in my books. When I play games myself, I usually have like benchmarks in terms of clarify what I would call good pace. And for me, 200,000 points by line 40 is good pace in my books. NGC looks like a series of unfortunate misdrops. He shook his hand, perhaps a misdrop or a really bad pieces. but this time around Tugi with the advantage in the early game. $290 at the halfway mark for Tugi. You can maybe think about getting a 580k transition. That Z-piece came at the worst time possible. Tugi now waiting on a T-piece, bails out of it instead. Had to take a few more burns, but does manage to escape. Gets Tetris, now waiting on a piece to tuck with. We got Scotland forever. Bagpipe noises. Bass boosted bagpipe noises. Alright, Tugi is actually 10 lines ahead, so that 90,000 point lead is actually not telling the whole story. It's actually closer to about a 50,000 point lead, so still 2 Tetrises for Tugi. What's the significance of 6, 9, 10, 12 pi? Very good question. They signify the DAS limits for, respectively, level 19 to the left-hand side, a long bar to the left-hand side, a long bar to the right-hand side at level 19, long bar to the left-hand side at level 18, and long bar to the right-hand side at level 18. And that's what is shown on the middle of the screen, from bottom to top, 6, 9, 10, 12. NEC waiting for a long bar and gets a nice perfect transfer. Tugi waiting on a Z or a T piece, gets a T followed by an S piece, perfect RNG. Both players nearing transition with a nice TRT rate for Tugi. 1 Tetris left for him. Waiting on a T spin tuck, successfully gets it, very nice. And NGC in the meantime, a little bit of a problematic stack, but does get a nice triple to get out of it. Tugi, transition score of 563. He does have the advantage, so it'll be up to NGC to see what he can do to try and catch up in this post-transition. Tetris for NGC, 502. Still a respectable transition by all stretch. It's not something to be snuffed at, but he is behind. Tugi taking a single skim. Have to bail out of that Tetris well slightly. Waiting on J piece, puts the Z piece in there instead. Tetris ready once more. Nice adjustment with the L piece to the left hand side. Both players Tetris ready. NGC having to cover up the well temporarily. That long bar came at the worst time possible. Have to put it to the right hand side. Both player stacks actually looking quite problematic. Still escapable for NGC. Now he gets it. Nice pole vault. That's what I was looking for. It's a long bar to the left hand side. This is still survivable. Tugi meantime still cleaning a little bit. Very good survival, but NGC managed to escape out of it. SP escaped at the worst time possible. It does get a long bar for a Tetris. And this game is now nearing neck and neck with each other, with Tugi with only a 1 Tetris lead. And with NGC also behind in lines, NGC technically has the better pace. Tugi with a line drought gets a Tetris at level 23. NGC also at level 23. Trying to build up. Or Tugi with a little bit of problematic stack, or getting close to long bar dependent. Puts T piece left nice, O piece left nice, takes a double, still long bar dependent, gets long bar, gets a Tetris for Tugi. RNG smiles upon him. Puts the L piece over to the left hand side, takes a Tetris. NGC having to take a few skims, gets a Tetris, and he is now actually, it is still considered neck and neck in terms of pace. But NGC does have to score Tetrises to make it neck and neck, does so at level 24 into 25. Tugi about 10 lines ahead. Tugi going for row number 2. Taking a double, LJ gets the J piece, adjusts for that. NGC once again have to take a series of burns. Oh, Tugi's really high up. He hangs the long bar to the right hand side. Tops out at 766. And so NGC needs 2 Tetrises to win the game. Let's get one of them. And this is now line outable. And that will do it. GG's. NGC definitely has more now. So GG's to NGC. Will he go for level 30? I think he's going for level 30. Needs a long bar. Oh, let's get it. Rip, but it does not matter. NGC, you move on to the semi-finals. Congratulations.
Hey everybody, this is your old pal Vandweller, host of Classic Tetris Monthly, and I'm asking you to do me a favor. If you like this video, hit thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like it, please subscribe and bang that notification bell. And follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/monthlytetris. Thank you, and have a nice day.